सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Okay, so we will continue from where we left off. This is now we will chant verse number 4 today. So I'll chant and you can follow. Shuddhyadishcha chikitsatam pratidinam.
Shuddhyadishcha chikitsatam pratidinam.
Ikshaushadam bhujyatam.
Ikshaushadam bhujatam.
Swadannam natu yachyatam vidivashat.
Swadannam vidivashat.
Praptena santushyatam.
Praptena santushyatam.
Shitoshnadi vishahyatam natu vratha.
Shitoshnadi vishahyatam natu vratha.
Vakyam samucharyatam. Audasinyam abhipyasatam janakripa.
Audasinyam abhipyasatam janakripa.
Naishturyam utsrijyatam. Okay, so we are in the 4th verse, and he says, Shuddh Vyadhi Cha. So, Shuddh is what? Hunger. Vyadhi is disease. Shuddh Vyadhischa, the disease of hunger. Chikitsatam Pratidinam, may it be treated every day. How? Bhikshaushadam Bhujyatam, by eating. Bhujyatam, by eating. Bhiksha Aushadam, by eating bhiksha, which is basically begging, bhiksha, which is the aushadam, which is the medicine. So you should treat your disease of hunger. How? Not by cooking at home, but by begging for food, and that food which you get is called bhiksha, and that bhiksha is the aushadam, it is the medicine for the disease Shuddha Vyadhi. So obviously, Shankara is talking about whom? A sannyasi, because grihastha is not allowed to beg traditionally, and therefore the sannyasi, the brahmachari, and the vanaprastha are supposed to be getting their food from the grihastha by begging. This is of course the traditional manner. And here hunger, Shankara is comparing it to a disease, and food is being compared to medicine. Why the comparison? Because you take medicine only when there is a disease. And therefore Shankara, with that brilliant comparison, is saying that food is to be consumed only when there is hunger. And of course, only that much quantity which is necessary for quenching the hunger. And of course, as I said, the reference to bhiksha, alms, basically indicates that Shankara is talking about a sannyasi. And what is the proper attitude for bhiksha? So he says, Natu yachyatam, may you not ask. Yachyam is asking, so may you not ask swadu annam, for tasty food. Which means what? Again, if you compare it to the medicine for the disease, when the doctor gives you medicine for disease, you don't ask the doctor, is the medicine sweet or not? You are not concerned about the taste of the medicine. And in the same example is being carried forward, the same comparison is being carried forward. So whatever food you get as bhiksha, you should eat. Don't go and say, I would like rasagulla today or I would like masala dosa today. Whatever food you get, you eat. And he said, Praptena santushyatam vidivashat. Praptena, whatever you get, whatever alms you get, whatever bhiksha you get, santushyatam, may you be happy with whatever you get. And whatever you get will be how? Vidivashat. Vidivashat means according to the rules. And what does that mean here? Whatever you get in life is in accordance with the vidhi, which means what? Prarabdha karma. So, vidivashat praptena santushyatam. May you be happy with whatever you get in accordance with your prarabdha, which indicates that a jnani also has prarabdha. And the jnani does not really bother. So Swami Dayanandji used to say, do not convert eating into a project. It is meant simply for quenching your hunger. Don't make it a project. And there is a Sanskrit sloka, which is some of you may have heard. It talks about how to eat. So it says, Purayet ashnena ardham tritiyam udakena tu vayu sancharanarthaya chaturtham avasheshayet. So purayet ashanena ardha. Ardha, may you fill half. Half of what? Half of the stomach. Ardham purayet, fill up, ashanena, with food. So may you fill half your stomach with food. Those are the Shastric instructions. Then tritiyam udakena tu. 1/3 may you fill with. Tritiyam here means the third quarter. Okay, you have got half of stomach is filled with food, so you got another half left. So that half you divide into 2 quarters, or two. Obviously, when you divide half into 2, it is 1/4 plus 1/4. So tritiyam refers to the third quarter. Udakena tu, the third quarter you fill with water. And chaturtham avasheshyate. Avasheshayet means leave it empty. For what purpose? Vayu sancharanarthaya. For the movement of air, may you leave it empty. So this is the Sanskrit sloka talking about food. You should eat only filling half your stomach. 1/4 you fill with of the remaining half. 1/4 you fill with water, and last 1/4 you leave for the movement of the air. Okay, now we go to the third line of the verse. It says, Shitoshnadi Vishyatam. Vishahatyam is, may you endure. What? Shitaha Ushtaha. May you endure cold and heat, and may you endure cheerfully without complaint. And Vritha Vakyam na samucharyatam. Vritha Vakyam is useless words, meaningless words. Na samucharyatam. May you not speak useless words. So there is a saying, when it is not necessary to talk, it becomes necessary not to talk. So that is what is being conveyed over here. Tu vritha vakyam na samucharyatam. You should not speak meaningless words. When it is not essential to talk, remember that it is essential not to talk. So do not talk at all unless there is something to be said. And basically we are saying that the tongue is very important for spiritual sadhana. And tongue has 2 functions. One is talking, one is eating. Both are covered in this one line. All spiritual sadhanas must begin with restraint over the tongue, both in talking and in eating. And in talking, in speaking, there is something called a 3-gate theory. Okay, so there are 3 questions to be answered before you say anything. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? So you go in sequence. You ask, is it true? If the answer is no, then whatever you are about to say, don't say. Then you say, is it kind? So it may be true. Okay. First, is it true? The two options are yes, no. No means you don't continue with the conversation. You don't initiate the conversation at all. Supposing you say, is it true? Yes, it is true. Okay. Then you ask the second question, is it kind? So if it is a truth and it is not kind, then you should not say whatever you're about to say. And the third one is, supposing you get yes for the first two questions, it is true and it is kind. Then the third question, is it necessary? So only talk if it is necessary. So in Taittiriya Upanishad, also in the Shastras also you will find, so they say that Satyam Vada. Satyam Vada is basically, it means speak the truth. Okay. And very often, a lot of people say a lot of hurtful things to other people and they justify it saying, after all, it is the truth. But Shastra also says, Satyam Vada Shastra says, but Shastra follows it up by saying, Apriya Satyam Mavada. Whatever Satyam is not pleasant, do not say it. And that is what these people forget. Whenever you learn Shastram, learn the full thing. Shastram is very wise. It says speak the truth, and if the truth is hurtful, don't speak it. So Satyam Vada should be understood not as always speak the truth. It has to be modified to say whenever you speak only the truth, which is the correct interpretation of Satyam Vada. It doesn't mean that whatever is the truth you speak, irrespective of how it affects the person opposite you. And of course, third question here is necessary. Is it necessary or not? If it is not, then you don't speak. And also we can add some corollaries. If I want to say something, I should first find out if the other person wants to hear. Okay. If he doesn't want to hear, I don't need to say it. This is something which we often forget. We are so fond of our own voice and our own opinion that we go on giving it. So Shastra says, never speak a word which will not be heard. That word which you know will not be heard, it is a waste of your energy. It's an insult to the word. So don't speak that word at all. Now we go to the fourth line. Audasinyam abhipsyatam janakrupa naishturyam utsrajatam. Audasinyam. Audasinyam is, the literal meaning of Audasinyam is indifference. Okay, now indifference here has to be understood as not swaying to one side at all, like neither being too emotional nor being completely indifferent. So Audasinyam is to be understood in that sense, which basically means emotionally balanced. So abhipyasatam. Abhipyasatam is, may you desire to attain. Abhipyasatam, may you desire to attain Audasinyam, an emotional balance. So in practical terms, in your as a Vedantic student, you should stay away from groupism. Don't join the BJP, don't join the Congress, don't join religious groups, don't become a Shaivite, don't become a Vaishnavite. You should never be aligned with any one group. That doesn't mean that you criticize them. I don't criticize anybody, but I don't join them. And if at all I have to talk about anybody, let me be sure that I talk only about their good points. Any negative points which I think they have, I keep to myself. So Janakrupa Naishturyam. Janakrupa is, Kripa here means praise. Janakrupa means praise from other people, and Naishturyam, that is censure from other people. Utsrajyatam, may you give it up. How do you give up praise or censure from others? The meaning is that do not be affected, do not be taken in by people who praise you, and don't try to appease or please those who criticize you. If they say you are a terrible person, it does not really matter. Leave them alone. You know, there is a story of somebody who went to Swamiji and said, Swamiji, this man, he called me a dog and I am very insulted. So Swamiji said, turn around. So the man turned around. And then Swamiji told him, you know what? I don't see a tail. So he says, Swamiji, what does that mean? You said he called you a dog, but I don't see a tail. So obviously you are not a dog, right? So what is the problem? That is the attitude. Don't try to appease those who criticize you. Whatever their opinion of you, it does not matter. You just leave them alone. Remember that we as Vedantic students, we don't have the job of changing the world. So that is Bhagavan's job, that is Easwaran's job. Let us not take over his job. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there was a particular word which this attitude was described in. There was a particular phrase in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2. Can you remember? What is the attitude? The total attitude of
Atmani Atmana Tushta.
no. This is very anatma thing.
Prakritim yanti bhutani.
No. It's very simple. Samatvam yoga uchyate. The
Samatvam yoga uchyate.
mind is not affected at all by whatever happens around you. That is what is being mentioned over here. So this is verse number 4. And let us look at verse number 5. Ekante sukham asyataam paratare.
Ekante sukham
Asyatam
asyatam
paratare.
paratare.
Chetas samadhiyatam.
Chetas samadhiyatam.
Purnatma susumikshyatam jagadidam.
Purnatma susamikshyatam jagadidam.
Tadbadhitam drisyatam.
Tadbadhitam drisyatam.
Prakarma pravilapyatam chitibalat.
Prakarma pravilapyatam chitibalam.
Napyuttaraish chilshyatam.
Napyuttaraish
Napyuttaraish chilshyatam.
Napyuttaraish chilyatam.
Prarabdam tveva pujyatam athapara. Brahmatmana sthiyatam. Okay. So this is the last verse. As we know, it's Sadhana Panchakam. This is the 5th verse, which is why the text gets the name Panchakam. So what is Shankaracharya saying? After following all the earlier instructions, if you have followed all the instructions, if you implemented all the suggestions in the last four paragraphs, 4 verses, what will happen to the mind? It will remain tranquil. There will be relative tranquility, and therefore you are ready for the primary sadhana, which is what? Nididhyasanam. So Shankara is talking about Nididhyasanam now. He says, Ekante sukham asyatam. Ekante, may you be seated, sukham, comfortably. Ekante sukham, comfortably in solitude, asyatam. From the word asanam, asyatam is may you be seated. How should you be seated? Sukham ekante. Be seated in comfort. In a comfortable position you sit. And ekante. You should be alone. Do not have your friends with you. And ekante also means do not have any means of communication with the external world. So don't have your cell phone with you also. No friends, no cell phones, no tablets, nothing. So Ekanta need not be a forest. Anyway, you don't find forests nowadays. Ekanta need not be a forest. It can be a park near your house. It can be a secluded corner of your house. Anywhere where you will not be disturbed is Ekante. And what should you do? Paratare chetaha samadhiyata. May you, samadhi meaning total concentration. May your mind be fixed in total concentration on paratare. So chetaha here is the mind. Chetaha samadhiyatam. May your mind be fixed totally paratare on Brahman, on the Supreme One, on Brahman. And in that meditation, what should happen? Susumikshata Purna Atma. May you recognize that Brahman as Purna Atma, as the ever complete Atma. And remember here that Atma is basically the Sanskrit equivalent of I, May. So Purna Atma means may you recognize myself as that Brahman. And since Brahman is ever complete, may you recognize that I am ever complete. I am self-sufficient. I do not need any support from anybody. In fact, I am the very support of the world. So where is the question of my needing support from anybody? Purna Atma Sumiksyatam. So that Purna, the word Atma is very important. So usually all of us have been, trained in such a manner that you think of Atma as some object which is to be recognized. Because the word is Atma, and you think of it as something other than you. But remember, the Atma means I, me. So I am self-sufficient. Purna Atma means complete. I am complete. Atma, you do not say that Atma is complete. Say I am complete. And what kind of I am I this? You have to connect this Atma here to the Paratare of the previous line. Paratare is Supreme Brahman. Paratare Purna Atma. That Brahman which is ever complete, I am, and therefore I am ever complete. I am self-sufficient. And then Idam Jagat. Jagat Idam. Idam Jagat. Tat Baditam Drishyatam. May you see the world as negated. Baditam means negated. Negated as what? Negated as a real entity. So when you say, I am Brahman, ever complete, you are saying, I am Satyam. I am the only real thing in the world. World itself is dependent upon me. It is a dependent entity. It is Mithya. And therefore, Jagat, Idam Jagat, Baditham Drishyatam. May you see the world as Mithya only. Which is what? Knowing that the Jagat is dependent upon me and not different from me. Again, this is a very important concept. For a Vedantin, the initial stages, what do you learn? In fact, Bhagavad Gita itself, in the first 2 or 3 chapters, 3 or 4 chapters, in fact, what do you see? You see the difference between Anatma and Atma being brought out. And therefore, you might be getting a view of the duality there. There is Atma and there is Anatma. But as you go further down the Bhagavad Gita, you realize that Vedanta says that world is not different from you. How can you be talking about 2 different things and say the second thing is not different from the first thing? That is possible only if the second thing is completely dependent upon the first thing. To take an example, we think of a gold lump and a gold chain as 2 different things. But little analysis will show that the substance of the lump is gold. The substance in the chain is also gold. They are 2 different names. And therefore, negation, Baditam here means that I know that the chain is not different from me. The chain is dependent upon me. In what manner? Because it is made of the substance gold which I am. And therefore, this entire Jagat is dependent upon me because it is an expression of the consciousness which I am. And this is what Shankara said, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. May you know that Anatma is not different from Atma is the teaching over here. Initial stages of Vedanta, you will say, Atma is different, Anatma is different. Here you are saying, Anatma is not different from Atma. How? Atma is the Karana Satyam. It is the Satyam, but it is the cause. Anatma is the Karyam Mithya. It is the product and it is Mithya. When to take the example of gold and chain again, or gold and bangle again, if I am unable to see the gold, if I miss the fact that gold is there, what do I see? I see the bangle. But if I train myself to see the gold in the bangle, then what happens? The bangle is reduced to gold. In other words, there is no bangle separate from the gold. This is called bhaditam, negation. Understanding that there is no karyam, there is no product which is separate from the cause. And here also, one needs to work on this understanding. It takes a long time of regular meditation until I learn to see myself spontaneously as Brahman. A spontaneous word is important because sitting in this class, I can say that yes, I am Brahman, right? But just like everybody knows that they are human beings spontaneously, right? You don't have to think at all. If you are asked which species you belong to, human being comes to your mouth immediately. That is the spontaneity which is required. And with that same spontaneous movement, understanding, I have to see myself as Brahman. So when somebody asks, who are you? Some Vedantic student asks in a Vedanta class, you have to say, I am Brahman. I'm not recommending that on the street when somebody asks, who are you, you should say, I am Brahman. That is not the idea at all. And that is not recommended at all. Because Vedanta is for a very select few. And therefore, in a Vedanta class, if somebody asks you who you are, the answer should be Brahman. And then Shankara blesses all of us saying, lead such a life of Jivan Mukta, and what will happen? Nothing more is required. On death, you will become Videha Mukta. And to understand this concept properly, Shankara knows that we have to appreciate karma. So he introduces the law of karma over here. What are the principles of karma? Very briefly, every karma is action. So generally when we say karma, we talk of the action and the fruit also, right? But it is better to say karma for the action and karma phalam for the fruits. It is more specific. The word karma in English has been accepted to have two meanings: the action itself, as well as the fruits of the action, the karma phalam. But we'll go by the two different words. So every karma has got two types of karma phalam. They are drishta and adrishta. Adrishta karma phalam and drishta karma phalam. Drishta karma phalam is what is visible. Adrishta karma phalam is what is generated also, but not visible to you. And adrishta, the invisible karma phalam, is of two types: punyam and papa. Right? The visible karma phalam you can actually see. So if you push somebody, he falls. Pushing is the karma. The falling of the person is the karma phalam for that person. That is the drishta karma phalam, the visible karma phalam. The adrishta karma phalam will accrue to you depending upon what was the motivation for the push. If the motivation was to hurt the other person, then that adrishta karma phalam you get is papam. If the motivation was to save the other person from some problem, then the adrishta karma phalam is punyam, irrespective of the fact that the visible karma phalam may be painful to the other person. Okay. So this type of action which produces adrishta karma phalam is determined by Shastram. So Shastram says that certain types of actions, they generate punyam. So actions prescribed by the Shastram, mandated by the Shastram, they generate punyam, and actions which are prohibited by the Shastram, they generate papam. So that is a clear understanding from Shastram. What are the effects? Adrishta will lead to pleasurable experiences and painful experiences. How adrishta punyam will give you pleasurable experiences. Adrishta papam will give you painful experiences. And when will you get these experiences? What kind of time frame after the karma? That is not predictable at all. The incubation period, so to call, before the effect of the karma is felt as karma phalam, it can be today itself, it can be tomorrow, it can be after 20 years, it can be after 500 years in another birth. Similarly, incubation period of papam also cannot be determined. So it is like different seeds which sprout in different time frames. So mango seed will sprout in a certain time frame. A tomato seed will sprout in a different time frame. There is no answer to why for this. Why are there different times? Why can't they all sprout at one time? There is no answer to that. And that's why I said some of the adrishta phalam may not fructify in this birth at all. And therefore, there is always adrishta punyam and adrishta papam being carried over into the next life. Where does it go? It goes into the sanchita karma. And because the sanchita karma is constantly being replenished by constant actions that we do, it can never be exhausted by experiencing alone. And therefore, again and again, one has to be reborn to experience this backlog of punyam and papam. It cannot be exhausted because every time you are born, you acquire more and you exhaust some. You acquire much more than you exhaust, and therefore the sanchita is always being refueled or refilled. And therefore sanchita karma can never be exhausted by experience. A part of the sanchita karma is the trigger for the next body, for the next birth. And that part, which is the trigger, is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma alone has influence over the current life. Remember, the sanchita karma has no influence over your current life because it is just the box which is lying in wait for future birth. What influences your current life, which means what gives you painful experiences, what gives you pleasurable experiences, what gives you healthy body, what gives you a diseased body, all this is prarabdha karma only. Okay, so you have prarabdha karma, you have sanchita karma. What about the karma that I am doing currently? That is called agami karma. Whatever current karma I do currently, that is called agami karma. So agami karma, some part of your agami karma can fructify in this janma. Okay, for example, some of the rituals which you do from the karma kanda of the Veda, you take the example of putra kameshu yajna. A very specific ritual for the birth of a child. The putra kameshtu, with the desire for a putra, a yajna is done. That, what does the yajna do? The yajna generates the punyam. And the punyam of that Yajna has obviously to be fructified in this Janma because you are doing the Yajna for a child in this particular life. And therefore, some part of Agami can fructify in this Janma, but some part will not fructify, and the part which does not fructify gets carried over to your Sanchita karma. Karma is that, to understand karma, you should know because of this karma, because of the various different types of karma which are available in your Sanchita karma, that is the only thing which explains the huge disparity among human beings, rich beings, poor beings, smart beings, dull beings, healthy beings, sick beings. And also, it takes away from the randomness of our experiences. It helps us to know that all my painful experiences, for which I do not see any obvious cause, it helps me to see that they are all due to my Sanchita karma alone. Who did the Sanchita karma? Only I did. And therefore, I have no reason to fret or resent because what I'm experiencing is the results of my own actions only. So, accepting the law of karma enables me to take charge of the future. How? By doing appropriate agami in the present. The future I is always a product of the present I. The future jiva is always a present of the present jiva, and therefore, with this understanding, I accept the responsibility as mine and I can determine by my own future. This law of karma is the basis for the moral order in society. Otherwise, how do you explain how corrupt people are prospering and the honest ones are suffering? It might seem that corrupt people are prospering and honest ones are suffering. That is due to the misconception that it is the current karma which is giving the current phalam. This law of karma therefore enables you to connect the current experiencer, the current bhokta, to the past karta, the past doer. When you look at the connection in this manner, that a person who is corrupt today but who is prospering, that prospering is not due to his current corruption, but due to some good actions that he has done in past lives. And similarly, the honest person, the good person who is suffering, he is not suffering because of the good actions of the current life, but because of some questionable actions of previous life. That is the only way you can explain the moral order of society. And the law of karma therefore tells us this, that papam will produce suffering sometimes later. Okay. Another question can come. In terms of prarabdha, what happens to a jnani? So Shankara gives the answer to this. He says, prakarma pravilapyatam chitibalat. Prak means before. So prakarma is karma before. And you have to add over there, karma before this present birth. Which means what? Sanchita karma. Therefore, prakarma has to be taken as sanchita karma. So he says, prakarma pravilapyatam. Dissolve the sanchita karma. How? Chitti balat. Chit is the mind. Balam is the strength. So mind here means the mind absorbs knowledge, and therefore prakarma pravilapyatam chitti balat means may you dissolve your sanchita karma to the strength of atma jnanam in your mind. Atma jnanam is the only thing which can destroy sanchita karma by showing you that you are not the karta at all. So Shankara says, may you destroy the sanchita karma using atma jnanam, and api also na uttaraihi Chishlatam. May you not get tainted. Chishlatam. Chilashyatam. May you not get tainted. Chilashyatam means tainted or burnt. May you not get tainted by uttaraihi, the karma, the new karma performed in the rest of this life. Agami karma. So, agami karma comes by because of the attitude of I am the doer. The ahankara is there. So, he is saying, may you not get tainted. Chilashyatam. May you not get tainted by uttaraihi, the later karma done in his life. What is the only way for that? You have to get rid of the ahankara. And prarabdham tviha bhujyatam. Tviha bhujyatam. May you experience bhujyatam, your prarabdham, to iha. Iha bhujyata prarabdham. May you experience your prarabdham immediately, in this janma only. And therefore, he is saying that for the jnani also, the body has to go through these experiences. And because of the knowledge that he is Brahman, the body of course will suffer. But in the background of the knowledge that he is Brahman, the suffering of the body appears to be very small, to be insignificant. And atha, then, parabrahmatmana sthiyatam. Thereafter, atha means thereafter. What is thereafter? You have to connect it to prarabdham bhujyatam. After the prarabdha is exhausted, parabrahmatmana sthiyatam. May you abide as the param brahman. Sthiyatam, may you be stable, may you abide as param brahman. And therefore, here he is talking about Videha Mukti. Earlier I talked about Jivan Mukti. First, may you get Jivan Mukti, then may you get Videha Mukti. So, all the 4 ashramas have been talked about in these 5 verses. The various stages of sadhana have been talked about: Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. All have been talked about. A very small, beautiful little text which tells you the entire journey of a sadhaka has been mentioned here. With this, the text is over. Any questions?
Acharya ji, so prarabdha is exhausted only during Jagrat Avastha?
No. During anywhere where you get pain, for example, in our life, we have pain in 2 avasthas, pain or pleasure both, Swapna as well as Jagrat. So Jagrat is of course very painful. Swapna also you have pain, right?
Okay.
So it's in both the avasthas you get exhaustion.
Thank you.
Om Raviji,
Yes.
my network is very poor. I'm not sure if I'm
You're
audible.
audible. You're audible, yeah.
You said that we are not here to change the world. So do not speak when you see some problem. I mean, what I forgot exactly the word. So suppose in office, I have to do some work, and someone is responsible for like assisting me, or my superior. Suppose I need endorsement from that person, and then that person is not regular in the office or not doing what he or she is supposed to do. So in that case, shall I consider that no, this is because of me only, and I should not tell or complain, or what?
See, there are 2 aspects to this. One is your role vis-a-vis the company or organization. You are expected to play a certain role. Are you fulfilling the role or not? In the fulfillment of that role, you have to do everything possible. But what is being mentioned here is that if that in the fulfillment of the role, Somebody says something, somebody does something or does not do anything. You have to do your best to fulfill the role, which means whatever is in your power you must do, but you should not get affected by whatever is happening or
Okay,
not happening.
perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Om Acharya,
Yes, Siddharaji.
I have like three questions. So one, so Prarabdha, we have heard many times, but just ensuring that we are on the right track. So not all incidents are prefixed, right? Like the Prarabdha, is it like everything what we do, is it fixed, like the result? Either
Prarabdha brings to you the environment or the situation.
okay,
How you handle that situation is always the result of two things. One is the Prarabdha and one is the Agami with which you handle it.
okay,
So you can have strong Prarabdha, weak Agami, weak Prarabdha, strong Agami, equal Prarabdha, equal Agami. All will give you different
okay.
results.
Oh, okay. But that is changeable. Like that is also based on the situation. That's not
It depends on the
decided.
strength of the Prarabdha. If the Prarabdha is very, very strong, then your best
Mhm.
effort may not change it. But if the
Okay,
Prarabdha is not so strong, then a good effort might change it. A weak effort will not change it.
okay.
Since you don't know the strength of the Prarabdha, what must you do? Every effort must be your best effort.
Mm. Okay.
And after
Right.
that, if it doesn't change, then you accept it.
Okay. Right.
Om sir.
And one more thing. Hello.
Yeah,
Sorry.
eligible. Yeah.
Can I please? So yeah. So the punyam part of it. So like how you mentioned about good people having like people having good circumstances, like happy situations and all. So in this way we are all into this spiritual journey. So can we say that punyam actually giving exposure to this knowledge, not necessarily having a lot of wealth or good health or anything apart from the gnanam, because we think, right, that person must have done much punyam because he's got good wealth and happy, got good relationships and everything is sorted, but may not have this gnanam.
Yeah. So basically, see, whenever you generate punyam, there's a sankalpa. Whenever you do an action, there's a sankalpa. There is a reason for doing. For example, you're doing a yajna. So you are doing it for a particular purpose. If you are doing the karma for the purpose of spiritual progress, then only that particular punyam will generate spiritual progress. Like will give you an exposure to Vedanta. But if your focus is that all my karma should give me wealth, then you are not going to get, spiritual exposure. So it's on you, basically, what you are asking for. That is why in all karma and all Vedic yajna, there is sankalpa. What do I want out of the yajna?
Right. Okay. So the whatever right now we have, like suppose some of us are really struggling with the finance, struggling with the relations, struggling emotionally, but because of this knowledge, though we don't have money or good relationships or any circumstances, we are able to overcome and able to at least respond to the situation very well.
Yes,
So
of
that
course.
means
That is punyam for the knowledge. The knowledge itself stabilizes your mind. That most of you would have seen by now. Those are long-term students. You would have noticed that there's a whole difference in the attitude. That is purely
absolutely
because of knowledge only.
right.
And
Okay.
not everybody can come to the knowledge, because you need
Correct.
that much of punyam. According to me, far more punyam than to become rich.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was my answer I was looking like. So in our previous life, maybe the yagna what we have done would have asked for the spiritual
Spiritual
uh,
progress. All the karma, you're asked for
progression.
spiritual progress. And therefore, that particular thing is fructifying today.
Right. Got it. Yes. And the last question, Acharya, about the drishta and adrishta phalam. So not
Yeah.
all actions would have the both or one of it, maybe immediately or much later, right? So the drishta and
All
adrishta.
actions have got drishta, adrishta, excepting where there is an accidental action where there is no intention.
Mm-hmm.
It is the
Okay,
intention or the motivation which creates the adrishta.
correct.
So if by accident you step on a cockroach, then there was no intention. So adrishta doesn't come there.
Okay,
But
right.
90% of your action, 99% of your actions are not accidental. And therefore
Correct.
motivation is there. That motivation will lead to adrishta. And drishta is always there. A drishta action will always have the drishta phalam. But the adrishta part of the action is what? The motivation. So that motivation gives the adrishta phalam.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Acharya.
Yes, Sundar.
Om sir, I just wanted to say that when we put in our best efforts, that means that you meant the free will.
Yeah, you used your free will, yes.
That is what I wanted to clarify. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
That means the agami is really dependent on the free will.
Agami is purely free will.
So prarabdha and agami, which means whatever you are born with, the prarabdha which is fructifying now, and how you deal with it, with what attitude, that creates the second half.
Not just the attitude, how you deal with it, whether you give it your best shot, whether you are, have given it careful consideration. Agami is sum total of your effort.
Okay.
Guruji,
Yes, please.
can I ask a question?
Yes.
Guruji, you said that there are a lot of people who are corrupt and then they are having a good time because maybe in the previous janmas they have done good punya. And a lot of time people who are doing, great work, they're still having very tough time.
Yeah.
So where does, even if that knowledge I have, and I'm still struggling doing all the good job, and then I'm seeing people who are corrupt, and I know that they're having fun because in some previous janam they have done some karma. Where does that knowledge leaves me?
The whole knowledge is not for you to better the world. That's why I said. It is
Okay.
for you to better yourself. Whether they are corrupt or not, it's only, and they're enjoying it, it's only a question of validating the fact that there is the law of karma.
Okay.
How it affects them is not, is not our job. That is the law of the Lord. That is the law of the karma phala data. What we can, by witnessing this, we can say, okay, fine, this is how it works. And therefore, if it is like that for them, it must be like that for me also. Therefore, if I am suffering now, there must be a problem in the past. And therefore, let me not blame anybody else. It's meant for our betterment, not for the betterment of the world.
Yeah, and usually what happens is the system is such that I get motivated that the system is such that I have to get into the corrupt ways to get to that position that other person have got, maybe by bribing or so.
We are making a choice. You can never say system is such that I have to be corrupt to get into that position. You are making a choice to be corrupt.
Okay.
You can always say that I will be honest and remain poor.
Okay.
I know a lot of people don't do that, but that's a choice. So we have to be very clear that there is no, you cannot dilute the fact. So you can take those particular steps, but take it knowing fully well that they are wrong.
They're wrong.
That honesty one should have with oneself.
Okay. So when you say that we can make a choice of doing good but keeping poor, does that also suggest that in some other janm later, some form of me will have a good time because I did the right thing at the time?
Of course, that is true. But the whole idea of Vedanta is to tell you that you should not have another janma at all.
Okay.
No, the whole idea is to finish it off in this janma.
All right. Thank you, Guruji.
Acharya ji, is Easwar Anugraha included in Prarabdha?
It's just another name.
Okay.
Ishwaranugraha, God's grace, good luck, bad luck. These are all different names of your prarabdha karma. Don't blame the Lord for it.
Okay.
That is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I don't take your good actions and I don't take your bad actions.
Thank you.
What we call Easwaranugraha is basically the effect of our good karma only.
Acharya.
Yes, Jun.
So many times in life we were talking. There are situations where we can decide not to act with intention of like I don't want to get involved in this situation, or yeah, for any reason. So the intention behind a non-action is also generates adrishta phalam.
Well, that's a very technical question, you see. Can a non-action generate phalam is the question.
Mm-hmm. Even though there is an intention behind the non-action.
Yeah, but it's only an action which generates phalam. The intention generates the punyam and papam part of it. But if you have not acted at all, will it generate the phalam?
And suppose that the dharmic thing is to act, but
yes,
you don't. You avoid the action.
The explanation is that by not doing the dharmic action, there's a huge discussion by Shankaracharya on this. Okay. The explanation is that if you do not do the dharmic action, it is not that not doing the action generates papam. It is that not doing the good action does not generate punyam, which punyam would have neutralized your existing papam, and therefore it is the existing papam which is now rectifying. It is like you are not sweeping your house. The act of not sweeping the house is not what generates the dust. But the act of not sweeping the house is what reveals the dust.
Reveals the dust.
That is what is being. Very good question.
Thank you, Acharya.
Okay. Any other questions?
Guruji, can you repeat this understanding which June asked? I actually didn't get it properly. It was difficult to...
See, it's a very technical thing. Karma generates karma phalam. That is a law.
Karma, okay.
Now, karma, to generate karma phalam, karma must have the motivation. Right? I'll give an example. You are walking on my own example, the only example I use. You're walking on a road and somebody is walking towards you, and then you, from behind him, you see a motorcycle coming at a very high speed, which is going to collide with that person. Right? What do? You push that fellow. You don't have time to speak to him and warn him and all. So you just push him, he falls down and breaks his leg. So what was your intention? The intention was to save him. So the intention which was to save him, the adrishta phalam is punyam. But drishta phalam is what? He broke a leg. Okay. So the whole thing satisfied that you have got a visible action, you got a visible result, you got an invisible motivation, you got an invisible punyam. Now supposing that you do nothing. You see that fellow coming and you decide that, why should I get involved? You had the opportunity to save him from serious injury, but you did not do that. Okay. Now, normally you will say that is a sin and therefore you will get negative action. The point is, karma must be implemented to give karma phalam. Your action of not, doing anything cannot generate a karma phalam. But your action of not doing anything, what did it do? It did not generate punyam for you. The adrishta punyam was not generated for you. That adrishta punyam would have neutralized some of your existing papam. And since that did not happen, that existing papam can reveal itself in the way of some suffering. So it is simple to say that because I did not do that, I got this suffering, which is a correct statement. The understanding is not that the papam of not doing that causes suffering. It was the existing papam, which is not neutralized by the punyam of not doing that. It's a very complicated exercise.
I will still contemplate on
Yes,
this.
yes.
And
But it's a very complicated exercise, but it's a very, very well explained, phenomena in Shastram. This is how it happens.
Hmm.
The
Thank you.
technical name for it. It's called Pratyavaya Papam.
Okay.
What the problem which arises is the revelation of the already existing Papam, not that new Papam is created.
Hmm.
But that revelation is being referred to as Pratyavaya Papam, which to those who have not studied, it looks as if the non-doing creates Papam, which is not really true.
Hmm. And also, Guruji, in the beginning, we were talking about the food.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like many times in spiritual life, we say we should not eat certain kind of food and we should avoid it. And at the same time, it is also said that whatever comes to us, we should accept and we should not think about like how it is, what is the
See,
taste.
in
And
terms of food, whatever comes to you is meant for a sannyasi because he has no choice. He has to go and beg. But so that particular, and in the old days, the grihasthas, see, this whole concept is rooted in the traditional days when grihasthas were the only ones who cooked. And brahmacharis, sannyasis, and vanaprasthas, they would go and they're supposed to beg, they cannot cook. And grihasthas cannot beg because they're supposed to cook. And therefore, grihasthas would cook normal good food. Right. And therefore, if you know that somebody cooks meat in his house, you should not be going and begging from there and then saying that, okay, I got whatever I got and I will eat it. For us, it is more easy because you can go to the market and not pick up tamasic food. That's all. So onion basically is not supposed to be tamasic. From a particular, onion is very healthy actually. Just because it is grown in the ground. One shouldn't go, all full swing in that particular area.
okay.
Ultimately, don't eat meat and in fact, don't eat anything which will cause harm to others. But if you go by that logic, even pulling a fruit off a tree is, harming the tree. But then you have to say, okay, that is, the Lord made me like that, so I have no choice but to eat fruits and vegetables.
Then why the meat? Like meat is also the life and plant is also.
Correct. But plant, basically, you can say, is meant for you to eat. Meat is not meant for you to eat. If you look at your system, your what you call physiological system, it doesn't have the makings for a carnivorous animal. You should compare the length of your intestine with the length of a tiger. Tiger has a very short intestine because meat decays quickly and therefore it goes through the intestines quickly. But for us, we have very long intestine, which means it's basically meant for vegetables to sit inside for some time and the nutrition to be drained from them. There are so many things. You cannot eat meat raw. You don't have the teeth necessary for it. Tiger can. So the carnivorous animals are designed by nature to be carnivorous. Man is not designed to be carnivorous. So ultimately, see, this is all how much you would like to go by ahimsa is the question.
Okay.
If you can think, and it's a very simple question, like if, for example, I don't want something done to me, I should not do it to others. If you don't want the chicken to eat you, fair enough, the chicken also doesn't want you to eat it. That understanding you should have.
Okay. My husband is also listening, so he wants to ask you a question on this.
Guruji, I have a question on that. Now, I'm a Bengali, and in Bangladesh, for 10 months there is only floods. So the only food that we get is a fish. Like we get on the top of on the terrace and we just look for some fishes, and then my mother is going to find some fishes and just cook it for us. So what happens in that case? And for us, the fish is also very auspicious thing. Even in marriage, we propose that as a auspicious thing. So what
Basically,
happens?
you are
Yeah.
killing.
Yeah.
So that you are not supposed to kill. First rule of dharma is that do not kill. Because
Yeah.
very simple reason, you cannot give life. So you have no right to take it.
Yeah.
See, your argument can be extended to, for example, the Eskimos. They can only eat whales. There's nothing else available. So then you can say, okay, my prarabdha, the Eskimos' prarabdha is such that he is not going to come to Vedanta in a very big hurry. That's the only answer. And
Got
if you want to come to Vedanta, you should probably relocate from Bangladesh.
Got that.
And come to India.
Yeah, got that. Yeah, because there is no vegetation there, so there is no way you can have vegetables. So that is one point that I wanted to ask. But thank you so much, Guruji.
You're welcome. Okay, so with this, we'll close this text. I hope you all have enjoyed it. Next week onward, we'll start another small text. We'll do a couple of small texts before we go back to larger texts.
Om Acharya, will the recordings will be available for us to?
Yeah, they're all available. Yes.
So you'll be sending us a link.
They're there in the link, which I send every week. You'll go to the link, it'll open up the whole thing.
Okay, thank you.
Which is the
Otherwise,
next text, Acharya-ji?
Yes, Rinku.
Which is the next text, Acharya-ji, that we'll be doing?
I haven't decided. Probably Dakshinamurti Stotram. Probably. Or Manisha Panchakam. Could be one of those two.
Okay, thank you.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnamudasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya ji.